Hi, this is Kevin Trainer. Welcome to part one of my tutorial on authentication and admin. That's the coding assignment that we're working on. And this is all part of the tutorial project that we're doing called Easy University. And part one, I have to confess, doesn't even begin with authentication and admin because we left the project kind of accidentally in a state at the end of the last coding assignment that had a couple of errors in it, and they had to do with the static files code that we added to the project, and uh, some of the references to the static files were broken, at least in the solution that I published. Now, perhaps you fixed them on your own. But let's look at the symptoms here. Okay, we've got the server up. And as you can see, we've got the new styling that we brought in the last of the coding assignments, but you might remember that there was a logo file that we were expecting to wind up somewhere up here in the header, and it's not there. Okay, so we need to get the logo to appear. It's not a super logo, and we're borrowing it from the Pinkham book, but I think we want to be able to show that we can make the static files appear as they should. Okay. And the other thing to show is if you look down here, so the logo.png got a 404. That meant it couldn't be found. And what's interesting is that we're looking at it, looking for it under the wrong uh, uh, directory name. We should be looking for it under course info logo.png, and you can see from the error message here that our code is currently pointing to the wrong place. So we're going to have to fix that. Now, up here, one of the style sheets that's being pointed to by our base HTML file, normalized.css, isn't being found. And if you look closely, you can see that we misspelled course info. So we got to fix those two problems, and we'll fix a problem or two while we're at it. Okay. So first thing, the logo.png file. Let's go fix the path for that. So where does that appear? Well, the old style approach to putting up logos and such was to have an image element in your HTML. A more newfangled approach is to do it through your CSS. So one of the files that we added in the last assignment was style.css, and just so happens if we go down through that, we find out that there's a class called logo, and it has a background image, and it has a URL that says within the static files within the site directory, bring me the logo.png file, and we want to change that to the course info directory. Okay, so we're just going to fix that. I hate to have things broken. And even though it says it can't find it, I think it probably can't find it because it's really dynamically created at runtime. So I don't think that that's a problem for us. Okay, the actual directory static course info isn't really put together until Django actually runs, and so it's not in the code distribution that we see here. That's the nature of the static files feature of Django. Okay, and just down at the bottom, there's a place for another logo for probably ready for a future chapter. And it's a PNG that has to do with RSS, Rich Site Summary. And we're not going to use that. So just because we borrowed all this, I'm going to toggle that into a comment instead of deleting it. In case for some crazy reason we may want to bring that back. I probably should have just deleted it if I was doing it the right way. Okay, so there we go. That's looking a lot better, and it's complaining that it's broken, but I believe the complaint has to do with this course info problem that is not really broken. So let's take that out of there, and let's us go and look at the other problem. And one of the things I mentioned is in base HTML, one of the style sheets that we're pointing to, the path has a typo in it, and this is normalized CSF. So in my version, it says course info without an E. So we fixed that. All right. And that should solve that problem. And we've got one more change in here, and that's this. This classical logo, it's what's going to bring up the logo. Well, do we want the logo to come up on our H1 and then again on our H2? No, we don't. So let's, on the H2 here in the header, let's get rid of that class equals logo and just have it be a plain old H2. Okay? So those are my changes. Let's go back and see them work. Now, I'm not getting my logo. I'm not seeing all this happen. Well, why is that? Well, Safari is very stingy about caching files. And even though you tell it to reload the site, if it feels that it has a perfectly good cached file, it's going to keep it. Okay, so let's go up in Safari if you're having this problem, and go to Preferences, and go over to Privacy, then Preferences, and down at the bottom there's a button Manage Website Data. And we just find our test site here, 127.0.0.1, and say we want to remove all those cached files, and then say done. Okay, and then let's come back here and refresh it, and there we go. We got one silly little logo there. We didn't get two. That was good. And then let's also go back and look at the server messages that we were getting. Okay, so we can see it got the logo with a status code 200. It got skeleton CSS with status code 200. It found its way to normalized.css with the 200. And I found its way to style.css with the 200. So all of our problems that had to do with just kind of the finer points of our static files assignment now seem to be fixed. So I'm going to leave you to get that working in your project, and I'm going to leave you till I come back in part 2, where we really begin to work on the beginning of this authentication and admin assignment. See you there.